and welcome to another episode of Breaking the Guard. On today's episode, I'll cover some events that happened recently, particularly EBI 25 and the Canelo fight and the UFC, Noche UFC, right? I'll start with Noche UFC because that's fresh on my head. I tuned in to the last couple fights, and I will say that main event wise, I was rooting for Diego Lopez. I personally think Gene Silva is kind of annoying as a fighter, although he's a very dangerous fighter. I think his antics are kind of annoying to me. So, again, I don't want to give some spoilers here, so obviously tune out if you want to watch the event before getting spoiled. But Diego Lopez won by TKO in the second round. A very strong performance by him. A very gutsy one as well, because Diego marched down John Silva the entire time, stood right in his face in range, and did absorb a good amount of shots. Like, he wasn't, it didn't seem like he was blocking that effectively. Like, I think it was a right hand from Gene, or maybe it was a left, I'm not sure, but it was a cross that kept getting through, but it didn't seem to phase Diego at all. And he got clipped with some elbows, so he did take some punishment standing. But in the first round, the most significant thing, not a lot of strikes was happening. It looks like they were kind of measuring each other out. And Jean overextended himself and gave Diego a very easy takedown, and he jumped right from half guard straight into the mount, which to me is insane. Like, at this level where you're trying to fight for like a title shot and you have zero guard work is just, I don't even know what to say about that. I know he's predominantly a striker, but like, you have to have some ground game. And Diego was able to mount him and did some real damage from the mount. He was very calculating about what he wanted to do, which was downward elbows, which are now legal. And he cut open at least 3 different cuts on the top of his head and had him bleeding all over the place. Was landing some really good ground and pound. Gene looked pretty helpless from the mount. He kept trying to just bridge, which wasn't working because Diego was with a high mount, so the bridge doesn't really help you too much there. He tried to get his legs over, couldn't get that. Exposed his back a few times, but Diego was good at sticking to him and staying mounted on him. It was only at the very end of the round, Jean was able to escape, get back up to his feet, but not able really to do anything to sway that round. That was an easy 10-9 for Diego. Arguably maybe a 10-8, because he did a lot of damage. And I wish more people would take advantage of the mount that way. Like, it's frustrating to me sometimes. You see someone get a mount and they just like, they don't do anything. It's like, man, it's strike. Yeah. Diego did a fantastic job of capitalizing on that position and showing why the mount's a dangerous spot to be in. Second round, they pretty much marched right into each other and started exchanging. And honestly, it looked like Gene was getting the better of it because he was starting to connect a lot. And even though Diego was landing also, and they were both like hurting each other, but it seemed like this fight was the type of fight that John wanted, right? Like, he was willing to get into these exchanges because he felt that he had the better punching power and had the chin to absorb it. But Diego looked like he had the chin to absorb it because he got hit a bunch of times and didn't seem too fazed by it. And he kept marching forward through the punches, which to me looked a little wild. I'm like, man, don't give this guy a chance. Like, get him back on the ground. Jean once overextended himself again, but didn't get taken down. He was temporarily mat returned, but then he was able to pop back up. And towards the end of the round, they started getting really crazy towards the cage wall. And John a couple times threw this spinning back elbow that kept missing, but like it was like, oh, like it's close, and like if one of those connect, it's a game over. And then out of nowhere, Diego throws a spinning back elbow, and it's like a vertical slicing one, which was really nice. And it just grazed him on the temple, it looks like, which was enough to go lights out. Drops Gene, he gets on top, starts pounding away. And John like recovers a little bit, but he's getting demolished. And the referee comes in, stops it, maybe a tad early. Especially for someone like him, he's a dog. Like you should probably give him a little more time, but not necessarily a bad stoppage. He was getting pounded out, so Diego ends up winning that, cementing his number 2 spot. He wants to do whatever it takes to get back into title contention. For the fighting nerds, now it's 3 fights in 3 weekends that they've dropped, if I recall correctly, which is pretty rough for the team because remember they were touting how they were undefeated as in the UFC, and then like one of their guys lost, like, well, he doesn't count, and then now it's pretty much everybody in the team is lost now, if I understand it correctly. So that undefeated thing is gone, but it's pretty brutal when it's all happening back to back to back, which would tell you from a team standpoint, there's a systematic failing, right? Like for everybody to drop their matches, and these were well-matched fights. There was nobody that was completely outclassed or anything like that. So like there was a way to win each of these fights, and they weren't able to find it. So they had to have a real moment to discuss like what's happening in training, what's happening with the team management aspect of this, because for them to drop, 3 fights in 3 weekends, it's pretty rough, right? Puts the team in a pretty bad spot. So that's a lot of bad mojo to build up. I think, and I think Sean Strickland was critical of Caio Borralho because he actually cut weight to be an alternate the week before his fight to jump in the main event. So he basically cut weight 2 weekends in a row. And yeah, if you did that, you would be pretty jacked up. Because with cutting weight, you don't bounce back right away. Especially if you have to do it twice in a row, not a great idea. So it wasn't advisable to do that. So that could have been what, cost him the fight last weekend. With Jan, it looked like, he had 0 ground game, so he took a good amount of damage in round 1, and then obviously that's going to affect you going to round 2, because now like, I can't let this guy get any takedowns, because if he does, it's going to be a game over for me. And that makes you a lot more either gun shy or high risk. In his case, he seemed like he went into high risk, where it's like, I got to put him out quickly. Diego wasn't really going for a lot of takedowns. He was only going after the ones that were gimmies. Like he didn't shoot against Sprawled, if I recall. Like every takedown he went for was whenever Gene overextended himself, and then he tried to get on top of him real quick. But yeah, not a good month for the fighting nerds. They got to go back to the drawing board and figure out why they're dropping so many matches. And if it is bad matchmaking, then their agent, their manager, whoever, needs to get checked, right? Like you're biting off more than you can chew. And sometimes agents can do that, or managers, because they're like, whether it's because they believe in the fighter so much, but not realistically, or they just see a big payday, so like, hey, you're jumping this fight, like you have to be selective, especially when you're trying to build somebody up for like a title run. You have to make sure that each of these fights we have a good path to victory. I don't think any of these last two are fresh on my mind. They were winnable. There was ways to win. I think with Diego, it was a rougher fight. With Keao, like he definitely had a better shot at it. But in any case, yeah, when you have consequent failures, you have to check it out. With the Canelo fight, I jumped in late to the party. I only watched part of the co-main and then the main event. So I missed all the knockouts. I just got to see the long, drawn-out fights, and especially after watching the UFC, I remember now like why MMA is so much better than boxing. Because man, for me, it's just boring. It's hard for me to watch the boxing fights compared to MMA. Yes, there's a lot of technical fighting going on regarding who's scoring the more shots, whose guard's better, the footwork, all that, but it's just not as fun to watch because it's a lot of point fighting where we're not really getting the big knockout, we're not really getting even strong exchanges. It's just like, oh, he got a good 1-2 there, oh, a good body shot there. And then you're watching almost the same progression for 12 rounds, for 36 minutes. It's a lot, And it's crazy to me that these fights are still getting so much money. Like apparently Crawford and Canelo were each getting over $100 million for this fight. Which is insane. I mean, kudos to them. But then we're looking at the UFC and we don't even have guys making $1 million, for the fights. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens once it goes into the new Paramount deal, because there's going to be no more pay-per-views, and how they're going to fund it. This event was also on Netflix streaming, so I think it's the first boxing fight I've seen in many years, because I don't care to watch pay-per-view boxing anymore. I hate the judging of it, and it's usually rigged, and then the fights are usually not that exciting to me. But this one, I'm like, well, it's on Netflix, I already have it, so I might as well check it out. And apparently the whole event was over 8 hours long, which is insane. You remember how I was complaining about CJI? Man, this thing that's such a slow pace. And what's funny, I've seen people clipping it. Dana was criticizing other events for bad pacing. Meanwhile, he has an event going 8 hours long. And they played some type of music concert just before the Canelo fight. It's just retarded, dude. It's like, no one wants to see that shit, man. Like, just put the fights, dude. You need less time. We're in a time of social media. Like, when you're doing all this crazy stuff between fights, I bet you a lot of people are just on their phones and they're tuning out, Like, you need short form content. In my opinion, events shouldn't be any longer than 4 hours, and you better have the action packed in there. Like, you're really cranking up the adrenaline, because 4 hours is a lot of time to devote to watching something without getting bored. So it's possible. I told you, PGF did it for me. Like, I was sitting there for 4 hours and I was entertained the whole time. Any more than that, and I would probably start phasing out, And I'm a super fan of grappling and MMA. For boxing, oh man, it's a hard watch with all the delays and theatrics. Not great. But they were able to pay out because they had, I don't know, somebody from the Middle East, whether it was Saudi or UAE or whatever, but he was there front row with Dana, and I believe he was the money guy. And obviously to them, it's nothing, right? Like, they find $100 million in their couch, between the couch cushions. So They don't care about it, I guess. But Dana's not dropping 100 million anytime soon on a fighter. So I don't know how the pay-per-views, now there is going to be no pay-per-view. I think they confirmed that now. In the U.S. markets, there's going to be no pay-per-views, as it's going to be streaming on the Paramount platform. Other countries will still have pay-per-views, like Canada, Japan, UK, and all that. I can't imagine that brings that much money to them compared to the U.S. market, right? I know Pride had suffered a lot as a result of that because the U.S. market is the dominant pay-per-view market. All the other countries don't really have that economy built up. Now, I think it's also collapsed quite a bit in the U.S., and that's why they're going towards a streaming model now. But I wonder how the return is going to be as far as profit sharing for the main event. Like, are they going to get the equivalent? Are they going to get more? Or are they going to get less? That's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully they get more. But knowing Dana, they'll probably get the same, if not maybe a little less. We'll have to see. But yeah, that was a reminder to me, boxing is nowhere near as entertaining as MMA to me. It's just, MMA main event, there's always something happening, a lot of action, and there's so many more variables. It makes it more exciting. There's no stalemates or referee separations happening all the time. Anyhow, moving on to EBI 25. This was lightweights. I believe it was 155 pounders. There was quite a few people from the PGF here, which was a little puzzling to me. Because they had Landon Elmore and they had Derek Rayfield. Now, Derek competed in the PGF finals. He lost in the semis to Jet Thompson. But Landon was supposed to be in the PGF playoffs, but didn't show up. Which to me would be like, well, I guess he's injured or, I don't know what happened. But then they announced that he was going to be in EBI. It's the same prize money, 20 grand. And EBI actually has 4 matches, whereas PGF has 3 to get to the 20. So, and you would argue that EBI had more decorated competitors who are also fresher because they haven't done like 5 weeks of competition. And you had guys like Keith Krikorian, and Gianna Grippo, guys who were real vets, who've competed all over the world. So you would think, well, the PGF, the critique you could make is that a lot of these guys are newer. But Landon skipped PGF for whatever reason and went to EBI instead. Mind you, they're all 10th Planet Network, right? And Brandon is the commentator there as well. So I guess it was done with his blessing. I just found it strange as the competitor. To be fair, I think for Landon, the PGF would probably have been a harder draw than the EBI. And I say that because at least with the EBI, the weigh-ins were the day before, so everybody had to weigh in at 155. Whereas in PGF, the weigh-ins were once on the first week of competition, and after that, they stopped caring. So a lot of those guys bulked up considerably, whereas Landon is a probably small 155, if I'm being honest. So he would have been at a big weight disadvantage to guys like Jet or like Derek, for example. But Derek still made 155 there too, which is crazy. He's a big boy. In any case, pretty good match. As far as the EBI is concerned, probably one of the best EBIs I watched recently because there was a lot of finishes. You know me, I hate the EBI overtimes, and there were very few of them. Most of the matches finished in submissions. So, and the regulation too. So awesome. I'd like to see that. Uh, the ones that stood out to me, well, Landon got started early, quick leg lock. I think it was in under a minute. On the other side, I believe uh, Derek won on points. Gianna Grippo won with a leg lock. Keith Krikorian won by submission. And then I'm trying to remember the last gentleman. Oh, Reese Fever won by submission. So like the first round was all subs. Then they went into the quarterfinals. And Bryce Mitchell had competed as well. Oh wait, there's 8 matches. Man, I'm not gonna remember all the matches, guys. But Bryce Mitchell competed against another PGF alumni, JJ Powers, but he lost in a close match to Bryce. So Bryce ended up meeting Landon. Landon jumped a flying triangle him, and then Bryce threatened to slam him. Which, if you remember, Bryce knocked out Chrome Gracie from a guard slam. But so he was being nice about it, though. He didn't actually slam him. He was just holding him up, but he was talking crap. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. So then they stopped the match and they restarted. Didn't help him too much because he jumped another triangle, but this time he when he started getting lifted, he let go and went into a leg lock and caught Bryce with a leg lock. And again, under like a minute and a half or so. Actually, another short match for Landon. Derek Rayfield ended up going against Reese. Reese won an OT escape time, I believe. I remember in that match. Now, the one thing I don't like that Derek was doing a lot, he was letting people pass his guard, and he was getting side controlled a lot. And I always tell people, I know Derek is comfortable there because he's very good at buggy chokes. He's good at those unconventional escapes, that double outside ashi position he does from bottom out like Jordan does. But when you have a trap game, when you make it obvious, it's hard to do, right? Like I've talked about this before, though, but I feel it's the same problem that Derek is having. He's trying to play a trap game, but he's going right into the trap and saying, here, come get this mount. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to want to get it now. And if I do, I'm going to be very alert, so you're not going to get your traps. Like, play a strong game and let the trap happen by their forcing it, not by you forcing it. Anyhow, so Derek advanced. So on one side of the bracket, you had 2 Kingsway guys, Reese Lefevre and Landon Elmore. On the other side, Gianna Grippo advances, and who was the other? And Keith Krikorian advanced as well. So left side of the bracket, Landon strikes once again. Another quick leg lock. Under a couple minutes, he got Reese. And on the right side, Keith Krikorian won, I believe, an OT. He got a submission in OT, if I remember correctly. I can't remember. Yeah, he got a choke. And it looked like, because the commentators were seeming to think that Gianna would have the advantage with back control. And he had a good ride time for back. I think he had it for like a minute or so. But then when Keith Krikorian's turn came for OT, he locked in the rear naked right away, face crank, and it didn't matter that his chin was down because the face crank's just crazy, and he powered it through and got the finish in OT. So it was the final with Landon and Keith, and interesting matchup because Keith is also a very good leg locker, so you would think, well, maybe he could hang with the leg locks of Landon. Nope. Another match under a couple minutes, Landon puts him away with another leg lock. Just insane run for Landon. And obviously me questioning like, oh, why did he jump out? Well, maybe he knew something I didn't. Maybe he knew that this is a very good bracket for him and he was going to be able to win it pretty well. Get featured on another event card. And overall, I think it helps PGF because look, like one of the studs from PGF that didn't even do the playoffs, came here and wrecked everybody in EBI, which is supposed to be like the higher level event. Kind of raises the standard for PGF. Like our guys are legit too. We got teeth, you know. So amazing job by Landon. His leg lock game is undeniable, and I think it would have to be insane to try to play footsie with him, which everybody did. And I've talked about this before. A lot of the lightweights like to play these leg lock shootouts. It's not wise, in my opinion. I think like you're gonna have trouble, especially with Landon. He's shown that his leg lock game is next level, right? He's able to get them from very weird spots with very little attachment. He's great at those ayokis. Like, and you'll see like we're used to, at least I'm used to leg locks where, you know, we're controlling the knee line and we got, you know, a reaping leg and we got the inside, whether it's outside or inside, and we got the knees pinched, you know, so there's a lot of securement to keep the knee stable, at least from spinning, so that when we start rotation, it's strong and we have some control of the hips. These ayoki locks are very open. It's just like outside butterfly hook, making some space and small twist of the heel, and it's a done deal. So I think it's they're very strong. So it's a dangerous game to play with somebody like him. I know everybody probably has that ego, like, oh, I could beat this guy. Like, he's going to be the one that's going to be panic tapping. I'm like, it hasn't happened yet, man. I haven't seen anybody in the past 7 weeks, and he's competed, I think, 19 times, 19 matches that I've watched. No one's been close to getting one a leg lock. And he's probably tapped like 10 people, minimum, with leg locks. So no matter how proud you are or how, you know, like confident you are in your leg lock game, you got to ask yourself, is it worth rolling the dice with this one? In my opinion, it's a big no. I would play him out elsewhere. Right? Like, I would work a guard passing game. It's, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I've trained with a lot of these guys, and I trained with guys who are really good leg lockers who are in PGF. I'm not gonna, you know, name names, but I don't get in any leg locks. It's pretty easy to avoid if you just don't engage it, right? You don't let them split your legs if they're on top. You don't step over their hips when you're on top. You know, if you stay in butterfly guard, pretty hard to get you in a leg lock, right? From the bottom position, you know. And if you're on top, you're just constantly making sure that there's no legs that are weaving in. It's not difficult to avoid if you know what to look for. And if you know someone's really hungry for those leg locks, you know, you're just not giving them an opportunity to get in there. But most people are allowing them to happen and thinking they're going to win this dogfight, you know. And I'm like, why get into the dogfight? Go into the one-sided beating. It's like I tell people, I like striking when it's ground and pound. One-way traffic. I'm throwing all the damage, you're receiving it. I don't like exchanges on the feet where like, I can hit you, you can hit me. It's like, not that great, right? Like, I'm not where seeing who's going to roll with the punches better, who's got a tougher chin, who's got the more punching power. Like, no, I'd rather take you down, and I won't have to worry about getting my chin checked because it's all going to be on you. And I feel the same way when attacking from any position, any type of attacking. Why am I going to get into a submission exchange when I could just have a one-way submission streak, right? And you can get that by passing the guard, right? You pass a guard, it's generally one-way traffic, minus the few buggy chokes and, you know, crazy like counter submissions, which are easy to avoid also if you know what's coming. You should be in control of the submission attacks, right? That's another thing. I saw someone get caught, really high-level guy get caught in a buggy choke in the absolute final, and I was surprised because it was like big boy division. And I felt like, man, like I trained with guys who do buggy chokes really well. I've never been close to getting buggy choked. And it's because I know where it comes from. Your side control, you get really tight, that's when it happens. And you have to know when you're going with somebody who does have that capability, have to have a framing arm on them at all times. When you have the crossface on them, they're going to lock on a buggy choke, right? Like if they're good at it, they're waiting for you to get tight because that's when it works. So you have to kind of do the opposite, which is like, okay, I got to get now a frame instead. Is now I can make space. He's not going to be able to get close enough to lock that buggy choke. So it works to the opposite of what you would think, right? Like normally to avoid the submission game, we get really tight with them, but that's the one spot that it works against you. You know, side control, you get really tight, now they get their buggy choke and you're in problems. So when I train with people who are good at buggy chokes, I play it differently. I usually have my knee on belly, because that kills it immediately. There's no buggy choke because you can't get your legs up. My knee's covering your legs. Or at the very least, I have a crossface arm, a frame instead of a crossface, because if I feel anything happening, I'm able to extend. And if they try to get it, now they're choking themselves. So I've never been caught on that, and I hope I never do, because I know, I'm not saying it's not a real submission. It is a very real submission. Like, I've had people demonstrate it on me, because one of my friends is trying to get me to do it. I'm like, dude, it's not happening with my build. You can do it. I'm like, no, not nowhere near as flexible enough to be able to do it. But I have felt it. It is a real choke. It's slow, but slow in a dangerous way, because it kind of like you like, oh, I'm okay, and then oh, you're out. So. Because it's soft in the sense that there's no sharp blade. Like a guillotine is a painful choke, right? Like you got the wrist blade in your Adam's apple, you know you're in trouble the whole time and everything's hurting. But like arm triangles, they're also somewhat painful because normally there's a bit of a neck crank element involved, so things are not going great. Renegade, same thing. But this style of choke, there's no hard edge in the middle of your throat, right? It's kind of a soft edge on the side of your neck, on both sides. It's just slowly squeezing. So the lights are just slowly coming out. So it can slip away from you. So that's why I've seen a lot of people get tapped out to it. Obviously, we talked about, at CGI2, Sonnen went out twice, and it's probably because he thought he was fine until he wasn't, So it is a very slow acting choke, but it's easy to avoid if you know what to look for. And I feel you have to have some awareness when you're going against somebody. Like, okay, especially someone like Landon, who the past 5 weeks, everybody's been buzzing about him online about how good his leg lock game is. So like, why am I going to get stuck in leg locks with a guy like him? And you really shouldn't. And that's the same thing with the buggy chokes. Like, if I know I'm going against a guy who's a buggy choke aficionado, like, all right, I'm not going to play side mount the way I normally do. I'm going to be knee on belly or frame, And on certain guys, like Jordan, for example, like I know, like if I go to mount, I don't mount him with both my feet over. I have a knee on belly from the mount, or I have like almost, if you will, a butterfly mount. All right, where I'll put both my feet inside under the hips, knees across. So is it the ideal control of mount for me? No. But can he do those outside double ashi thing? Nope. I'm safe, right? I'm splitting the legs, so he can't, wrap over mine. And someone like Derek and Jordan does also, where like they throw. If they go into your close guard, they'll throw both their legs over. Guess what? I don't play close guard with them. Right? Like you have to be smart and know like where people are dangerous and just don't let the game happen. When you're like chancing, you're like, oh, I'm gonna see how I'm gonna counter. Like, well, you're rolling the dice. And like I said, I rather not roll dice. I rather take sure things. I know if I pass your guard, you give me a Kimura grip, it's a done deal, right? I'm gonna get a finish, or at the very least, get a strong position as a result of this. So. I feel the lightweights roll the dice a bit too much. I think the guard passing is a bit tougher of a road, so they start, taking what I would call like the easier path, which is just trying to spam the leg locks for the win, but it's risky, right? I feel play a more conventional game, the type of game that you could do in MMA, and it's going to result better. But the exception to this is Landon, because he's proven that you give him a leg lock and he's going to finish it, dude. So not a guy to be trifled with, and if I was going to grapple him, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to let him anywhere near my legs, right? And besides there's a few things you would have to do to avoid getting leg locked by someone by him, because he's pulling guard constantly. So he's shooting to try to get under your hips. So again, you would have to keep your head at his level of his head so he can get underneath you. Got to keep your hips back so he can get his hips underneath, hips low so he can get his hips underneath, right? And don't allow him to split your legs, right? Keep your feet in the middle so that none of those leg entanglements happen. But if you're diligent like that, it becomes very difficult to leg lock you. And I know because I've trained, like I said, in a lot of really good leg lockers. I'm a pretty decent leg locker myself. I've gone to New Wave, when it was New Wave at least, and wasn't getting caught at any leg locks. They don't even go for it that much because I think they know it. It's kind of like they understand for them it's difficult to leg lock each other generally. And I know because that's kind of the problem I had as well. Like once your training partners know your leg lock game, and they understand the leg lock game, it becomes a lot harder to score, right? Because you just avoid the positions or you just know the defenses really well. That's why I always like the Kimura game, because there's just no easy way out of it. I can always catch you. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. If I'm able to lock it up, you're still in the problem. Leg locks is not entirely the same. It's easier to nullify the game if you don't want to enter it. Anyhow, that's my take on it. So EBI 25, if you guys heard me historically, I usually give a lot of shit to EBI because the competitors tend to gain the overtime. This time around, that didn't happen. I felt the vast majority of the guys were fighting for finishes. I honestly think all of them were. I think I missed a couple matches, but I didn't see people stalling out. There were people actively working the whole time, trying to get submissions. So the overtime played the role that it was supposed to do. And there were, like I said, there were finishes in the overtime as well. So I appreciated that. This was a good EBI. I felt like PGF, the athletes followed the spirit of the rules, didn't try to game it. And it resulted in a great event. So, kudos to Eddie for that one. Good event, good athlete selection as well. And with the UFC, Noche UFC, the one fight I didn't comment on, Kelvin Gastelum, he ended up winning against Dustin Stoltzfus, and that looked like an eliminator match, as far as, but both of them haven't had a great run recently. But Kelvin came in apparently 5 pounds overweight. But Dustin still took the fight. He even joked beforehand that he hopes that Kelvin misses weight because he wanted to take a third of the purse, which is what they were offering him. Careful what you wish for, right? Because he got it, and mind you, Dustin fought well, but not well enough. And Kelvin got the better shots landed, rocked him a few times. But Dustin never quit. He was trying to score takedowns at certain points, but wasn't able to really secure positions long enough to do any damage with him. And Kelvin, besides being overweight, he fought well and showed his hand speed still there, still can crack. I don't know how you miss weight by 5 pounds. It's disrespectful. In my opinion, at this stage of the game, cuttable offense, right? Clearly, you just don't care, right? Like you're like, whatever. I'm not going to put the effort. So yeah, and it's not like he's shredded, So it's like, he doesn't have the weight to lose. Like, dude, the guy's fluffy, Like, he's got the weight to lose. So, as Dustin put it, like he put after the weigh-in, he was eating tacos. He's like, the correct order, weigh in, then have tacos, right? It looks like Kelvin was having the tacos before the weigh-ins. It's a shame because he's still good, but not disciplined. And without the discipline, you're not going to really go that far. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. So I'll let you all go, and I'll see you next week.